Kyle here from allmediareviews.blogspot.com, and Tuesday hopefully will be a day, as today is, during the summer of 2016 I can make more videos. I'm making another random artist feature today for kind of one specific reason, but it's going to be about the band Kaddisfly. Let's just get into it because these videos end up going 15-20 minutes sometimes, hopefully not quite that long, but their catalog I'll show in just a sec. I first discovered them at the end of 2005 when I was at Cheapo one day. I came across one of their CDs and the CD from the band Oceansize, and I also believe it was Spectre 1982 or Spectre, I'm not sure what his screen name was. A guy who wrote about a lot of his favorite albums from 2005 and praised the Kaddisfly album, Buy Your Intention, Will Buy Your Unicorn. So, and I bought this advanced promo, I thought it was. I don't know. Well, it wasn't. It was the Oceansize was a promo, but I didn't pay a lot for it. But anyway, that's what kind. And I liked them. They even came to town. I didn't make it. I guess may have been early in 2006. They played at the station. That's the 4th Street station in Station 4 rather in downtown St. Paul. But I know I didn't make that show. I wanted to. But then suddenly they had a new album in the works in 2006. And that's where I really caught on to them. So, but I'll talk more about that as I go along with the catalog, the discography. So they started out in the year 2000. They formed, and they eventually released an EP called Honorable Mention. I mean, I don't have their Wikipedia page pulled up. Maybe I should just do that really quickly here, just to make sure I have some of my chronology relatively accurate. They're from Portland, Oregon, or actually, I think the guys actually aren't originally from Portland, but they're from Oregon. But they eventually did move to Portland. Their name, Kaddisfly, with a K, is I guess based on Kaddisfly the fly that's sort of known in the Pacific Northwest, but it's with a C. But anyway, let's just see if they have the chronology on this before I start to say stuff that isn't true. Yes, okay, in 2001 they did put out an EP called Honorable Mention, which I believe I had digitally, but a hard copy of, I don't think I ever saw, although they had a fans forum that some of the people had. It was called Crimson Solitude on the fans forum. Some people actually had it on there, I think, and some of the hardcores. Dan Fury, of course, who got to know the band quite well and spent a lot of time with them, had it, but I never found a copy of it. It may show up on eBay or some of the other sites once in a blue moon, but they did release the next year, yes, the Humania, it's called, EP. And that's what this is right here. And, you know, Honorable Mention and Humania are interesting works, but they were sort of trying to find their sound. Musically, at this point, I would almost describe their music as post-hardcore or kind of hardcore punk at points, influenced by, like, not nu metal, but like grunge probably. And you know, it was definitely kind of lower-fi production, but they had hints of stuff that they would come on to do later, some of the progressive elements. But Humani is just maybe just for the collectors that really love them, and for nostalgia. I can't say I've listened to it more than probably about a dozen times. But then I believe it was the next year, 2003. Yes. One of my favorite bands, I gotta know all the dates. I don't know all the dates by heart from the early period. They put out this album, which is called Did You Know People Can Fly? Right? Yes. Which some people refer to as like a mini album. But a mini album or an album, I think it's like 40 minutes, 35, 40 minutes. It's pretty close to a full-length album if it's not. But I think it only has about 6 or 7 songs on it. But let me show the artwork. Kind of interesting. You can sort of see where their artwork was going later, especially this like thing on the back. And it has a few tracks I really enjoy, and it's interesting that on the back it says this album contains 42 minutes, so there you go, of audible content, or audible sound rather. But just knowing that the track list, okay, yeah, it's 8 songs. The song that really stands out to me on this Did You Know People Can Fly is the 8th track, Day Disappoints with the Absence of Night, which is like a 15 or 16 minute epic. I mean, it's really 2 or 3 songs sort of with little segues, but it has this part where they're using djembe or whatever, and great segues. It's definitely progressive. A lot of odd time signatures, vocal experiments, that kind of stuff. The rest of this record, again, it's a little bit like Humania. I've listened to it here and there. One of the songs that I like is called Midnight in Shanghai, which I know that the band would play live sometimes when I saw them. But I mean, the rest of it is kind of, I'm not saying it's forgettable. Manhattan Loves You also, that's another one I remember enjoying. I haven't listened to it in many years, so describing more details about it would probably be, not the easiest thing for me to do, but I consider this kind of they're kind of a little bit of a breakthrough record, but more of a sign of things to come. They kind of were taking baby steps. So then they released in 2005, like I mentioned earlier, By Our Intention We'll Buy You a Unicorn, which was the beginning, the blueprint for a 3-album trilogy about basically the evolution of man, or the evolution of life, the evolution of life on planet Earth. Obviously, some of it is just sort of sci-fi or fiction, or sort of, interpretive. Some of it is based on real life experiences, I think, but a lot of the lyrics are poetic and observational, and there aren't like references to like proper nouns, that kind of stuff. But and this is a long record, and I just, the best thing I can say about it, or the main things I can say about it, is when I first heard it. I first heard the band back in December of 2005, January 2006. It was one of those albums that they had these little piano parts I loved, and little transitions. Every song had something I liked about it. At the same time, I struggled with parts of it because some of the vocals were like kind of hard to understand, and it was definitely a mishmash of like things I liked and things that I didn't really care that much for. So I struggled with them, but I knew there was enough going on with their sound that I thought, that with a little more refining, a little more production improvements, and just growing. Honestly, this album probably grew on me, although I still, can't say, it's a little like Tales from Tropic Africa Oceans. I can't say I listen to it thoroughly, frequently, and say, wow, I want to listen to it again, or whatever. And I probably could still listen to it and hear a lot of new things with it, because it's a really long record. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It's 15 songs. The last 3 are all like these epics, including Horses Galloping on Sailboats, which might be my favorite of the 3. But it has the title of their 3 trilogy albums: By Our Intention We'll Buy You a Unicorn, Set Sail the Prairie, and Horses Galloping on Sailboats. So, but yeah, I mean, when I got into this and when I heard about it, mainly it was on the Traversing message board, the Dredge community, fan community. I haven't opened this. And you can see I have multiple copies. There's one that's signed by the band and stuff like that. But a lot of percentage of the Dredge fans were just going crazy for this, and then their next record, because they saw them live and everything. And I know at this point they actually moved to Portland, and also it was this record that they were a 4-piece band before it. Bo Kuther, the drummer, his brother Kelsey joined for this album, so they became a 5-piece. So anyway, I'll just move on because I'm going on long enough about this. So then I heard, like many people, a lot of the music, the full music, a full album of Set Sail the Prairie, the follow-up to By Our Intention, around this time in 2006. It was about 10 years ago. And then the plan was Set Sail the Prairie, the next album, was supposed to come out in September of 2006, and they were on a record label, this Hopeless Records, and I think because of they're trying to get the best experience, the best situation where they could release it in the right situation, with it all already being shared and heard by a lot of people, they pushed it back. And so here we were, a lot of people heard this phenomenal record that we loved, I'll talk about in a minute, but we couldn't really talk about it, and it wasn't available to buy anywhere. And then YouTube didn't stream songs at that point either. You could pretty much, there might have been a site or two that had it, but so what they did was, their songs that were playing live, and I saw them in July of 2006 finally. Actually had lunch with the guys, or dinner, across the street in Minneapolis. It was a weird situation. They were supposed to be on tour with the band 3 and the band Kiss Kiss. We had with some sort of accident with a fire or flooding or something like that at the club. They were supposed to play at the Ascot Room in Minneapolis, and so they had to try to reschedule it, and 3 and Kiss Kiss decided they weren't going to come to Minneapolis, but Kaddisfly decided they still wanted to. So they played this place called the Profile Center, which is off University Avenue. It was just like a studio, recording studio kind of thing, but I think it was at that point, maybe it was later in that fall, a couple months later, they finally did release something. This was called the Four Seasons EP, which, if I'm not mistaken, includes 5 songs. The bonus track Games, which it's weird. I know that some of the band members had mixed feelings about that track, but Sub-City Records, it says. I really like it, even though it's catchy and it kind of doesn't, almost overtly poppy, and it doesn't maybe fit exactly with the other music they were writing at the time. But anyway, but as far as the tracks on this thing, it had 4 songs from their upcoming record, Set Sail the Prairie: Campfire, Empire, Silk Road, and Mercury, which are 3 or 4 of the best songs on their upcoming record. So then I had that, of course, it was great. And then finally we waited, tried to promote it, tried to tell as many people about it, and Set Sail the Prairie finally was released March 6th, I believe, 2007. The same day as House of Fools' debut album Live and Learn, and the second Blackfield album, actually. So, and this is the album that, I mean, granted, I had been listening to this for many months. Some of the production sounded a little different, but this really extravagant booklet. It's an album, concept album, which, you know, By Your Intention was a concept album too, kind of. By Your Intention sort of represents the sort of early stages of humanity evolving. And Set Sail the Prairie, I've always believed, is sort of the present day, you know, modern day, present, where we're at right now as a race, as a species, as human beings, and how the Earth is. Because, you know, a lot of this has to do with, or I believe it has to do with, like, an owl. So, but yeah, this is one of my favorite albums of all time. It was a record I probably listened to 130, 40 times, something like that, from 2006 to maybe 2008. And every time I listen to it, I still enjoy it. Even though some of the production on it, like the drums, clip a little bit, and I would totally die to see this come on vinyl, which I think it really should someday. But as you can see, I got another copy signed. I bought, I don't know how many, 4 or 5, 6 copies. I see copies used at like certain places like Cheapo and Half Price, and just buy them for $4 or $5 and just give them to people. But I mean, I should do a separate video just on the album. But my favorite songs, if I have to pick favorite songs, Forest, the closing track, epic track. Silk Road, certainly very Middle Eastern sounding. I love Campfire, very catchy, very almost not danceable, but it talks about taking steps and that kind of stuff. What's it called? Empire, which is probably the most accessible track on the record, was sort of a single. They put a video out for that. Snowflakes has been one that I've grown to really love. That's really multi-parted, multi-layered, a lot of dynamics. That's the one where they showed a trailer and they had a little piano part that was sort of ragtime-ish, but it's very like heavy, quiet, you know, intense, and still probably remains my favorite if I had to choose one. The song that represents January, Via Real, which has this part that kind of in the middle section of the segue in the middle section goes crazy, kind of like King's X or Faith No More. I've always felt sort of in that, you know, odd rhythm, funky, thick guitar riff, sort of, and it's majestic the way it ends. But this is a classic record, and I'd put this on alongside Dredge's El Cielo as one of the best records of the last 10 years of this kind of modern progressive rock. And I don't think, I mean, it's one of my favorite albums of all time, although when I put favorite albums, I don't always include it, but certainly would be in the top like 40 or 50, maybe even the top 20. It's a perfect landmark record, I find. So I'm gonna just go over 1 or 2 more things and do a separate video, I think, because this is getting pretty long. After Set Sail the Prairie got released, it did receive some mention, some attention. The vocals were kind of hard for some people to take, as at times Chris Ruff, the singer, was hard to understand. But as a whole, I mean, it did okay. It didn't do amazing, but it did okay. But unfortunately, they were trying to get, you know, signed to a major label, and it didn't happen. So the guys had decided to do some other things, and they formed a band called Water and Bodies. Well, the bass player at one point left, Kyle Brewer, but then I think at one point he rejoined Water and Bodies. They put out a couple EPs, at least one EP. I can't remember, maybe 2. And they eventually put out a full length, which I believe it's called Light Year, which I have. the four guys from Kaddisfly: Chris Ruff, the singer; Aaron Tolson, one of the guitarists, and I believe Bo Kuther, the drummer. And if I apologize who I'm forgetting. It was either Kyle or it was Kelsey. I can't remember. I'll look in here. Actually, it has. Yeah, it has. Yeah, Kelsey wasn't on this, so I thought at one point he was involved with Water and Bodies. But anyway, this is a good record. I like it. It definitely differs from Kaddisfly, though it has some elements that are similar, kind of layered parts. Lightyear. This came out in 2012, I believe. I mean, parallels. The title track, 1980. Free World was kind of good. Celebration song. It's a pretty. I mean, it's an album that I would play and not really skip many tracks. I just don't. It doesn't have as many like big, mind-blowing moments that I used to get from a lot of the Kaddisfly songs. But it's not supposed to be like that. And the guys totally were going for something different. It reminds me of sort of 90s alternative music, but with slightly progressive elements. And then, they released this American Dream EP like the year after. I think this was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And again, it was, and I think actually I came to enjoy this as much as Lightyear. 4th of July is a really, kind of epic, not epic, but epic in some ways track. A lot of layering in that. Alive Again, Over Under. So, but then I'm going to stop and just do one more video.